Let's begin. My video yesterday regarding the reincarnation of the sailor that was proven was taken off of my YouTube. I was not given a warning. I was told that it was copyrighted by the people that owned it. And the people that owned it were Unsolved Mysteries, which is a television program, and all television programs are of CIA origins. And what they do, like Dateline and all of them, what all of these programs do is they pay people for their stories. And people sell their stories. And when they do that, the ones that bought the story own the story. And it can't go anywhere. And it's not going anywhere. And they don't want it to go anywhere because they know why we're here. You know, we're caught in a trap. And I'm going to tell you why. Because we love sin too much. You know the Elvis song, "We're caught in a trap, I can't walk out because I love you too much, baby"? He meant sin. I love you, sin, too much, baby. And that's what they have been doing, is leading a fantasy world riddled with war, money, violence, porn, degeneration. Degenerates is what they've created. Myself included. I don't know the creature I have become. When I go through my life review now, I'm horrified. I'm horrified of what I was able to think. How I was able to turn away from my son. Not really, but like go with the authorities and trust the authorities, the doctors, everyone, over my own son. And that's what all parents are doing, is sacrificing their children to schools and to cartoons and television programming, where you will get what they want you to get. I see it going on now today. The headlines, that's what I read, right? Just the headlines. That's enough to set me right off. But they all have you in imagination chaos. It's all chaotic. It's terrorism. It's drawing you into stories that your imagination should never go. I was always different. And there are many people like me, always different. And it's a different state of consciousness in our spirit. It goes, there are many levels of consciousness. And in consciousness, then there are different dimensions of reality. But the reality here on earth is the same. It's Satan's fantasy. And we're all playing a part, some role. The only way out of hell, and this is hell for me, in my state of consciousness, I live in hell. And positive thinkers would say, well, if you thought better, if you didn't think about bad things, if you didn't look at the suffering, just leave it alone and enjoy your life. Forget about what they're doing. That's not what my consciousness can do. Because I love everybody. In my life review, I gave up my feelings for other people's feelings. And people don't respect that. You know, they're seen as easy targets, weaklings, if you try to protect the feelings of others. Then they know they got you. They own you. They can do what they want to you, and you'll protect their feelings. You won't speak up. But really what you're doing is looking away. Positive thinkers look away all the time. They can't bear to look, and they won't. They don't have any feelings, any emotions about anything going on at the schools or the government or all of the institutions that are in media bullshitting all day long, keeping people in chaos in the mind. But the reincarnation trap, I feel very strongly that I saved my son in 2008. He died in 2003. I knew his spirit was around. There was no doubt. Of course, I was considered crazy. It just added to my already deteriorating reputation for craziness. So that just, it makes, and then when you get the crazy label, you're also disposable, right? It's okay for anybody to do anything they want to you because you're crazy. This is the thinking here. But in 2008, I'd had enough. I was very concerned. I was very conscious by that point about afterlife and earthbound spirits. I had that in me at that time. I was reading books on the afterlife after I experienced Trevor's presence around, trying to figure out what was going on, because I wasn't raised, I didn't have consciousness about the spirit world my whole life. I just had a different way of thinking and feeling. I couldn't stand heavy metal music. And I couldn't stand to watch violence. It hurt me. It physically hurts me to look at that. It physically hurts me to look at ugly things. My son was born a year after Elvis Presley died. My father, his twin flame, entirely, totally twin flames of the same spirit, was born the year after Gladys Love's first child died, the infant twin of Elvis. Have you heard about him? And then my father was born. And then in 1959, he seeded me. And Gladys Love, the mother of Elvis, died in 1958, the year before I was born. I would never have been able to connect my soul and spirit to the spirit of Jesus at all. No, blasphemy. But it was, so they went into the Elvis Presley thread of our stories and gave me songs, pictures, ideas that helped me connect the dots with Gladys Love, Elvis, and his twin brother in consciousness. We are caught in a trap because we love sin too much, baby. And that's the problem. And that's why he keeps leaving so early. And we keep getting murdered in this reincarnation trap. I was watching, I just wanted to look at some war. I never watched war in my life, ever. But I wanted to look at some historical war documentaries. I wanted not to see, because I don't consider it the truth. Nothing here is the truth. It's going to be twisted. It's going to be the opposite of whatever they're saying, too. But mostly what I noticed that these Freemason numbers have been around for a long time. 17,000 troops. 600,000 deaths. World War I was talking about there. And the ones that own the media own our minds, because people watch the devices and think they're having a relationship with them. They think they're real people. And they think they're believable. And they listen. And you know how many times I see on videos, of truth teller videos, so-called truth teller videos, they'll just give an emotional story like about 10 babies dying and sizzling up in Maui or something. And as soon as they start like really getting into gory words about all of that, people start feeling something. But you know what they do with their feelings? They give it all to the idol star they're watching. So many times I see comments, "Oh, I love you, Alex. Thank you, Alex. Thank you for informing us, Mike Adams. Thank you. Oh, here, where can I send you money, please?" That's the snake oil all along. It's always been like that, The fear mongers somehow, some way are able to squeeze your money out of you. And your emotions. And I gotta tell you something, they're laughing at you. Laughing. All of them, guys. There's nobody on BitChute I trust. Not a one. Not a one. It's very easy to see how they did it. It's through education. And the higher educated, the more damaged and the more enslaved. And for whatever reason, they don't give a shit anymore. It's like, just live for today. Nothing matters tomorrow. I'm rich today. And they have no forethought of consciousness beyond what they are now. Like, that's how retarded they are. They can't think beyond. They can't think for themselves. And if they see somebody else like me come along thinking for herself, "Holy shit, I'm gonna put you down because I've got people behind me. I got the books behind me. You're just a shit." Welcome back to hell. You're caught in a trap because you love sin too much, baby. Even David Icke, he's the one that first coined the term reincarnation trap, which triggered me, which made me want to listen to him. And I could tell he was onto something. His information was matching my downloaded information. But there are things emotionally about David Icke and his son that make no sense. Like, why is his son a drug addict? Like, he looks like hell. He looks like Hunter. But he's coming and doing these motivational talks and terrorism talks and asking, to buy this or get that. They all have an agenda. And they'll give partial truth, but they're not going to give you the whole truth. Nobody is. Nobody knows the whole truth. Least of all me. I have, in fact, the smartest person in the room could be me, because I know the smartest person in the room knows nothing. Because our dimensions are infinite. Our intelligence is infinite. We can recreate and create and do anything we want with our imaginations. But we're caught in this fantasy. Sex, drugs, rock and roll. And before it was money and slavery and wars for property and territory. And there's got to be a reason that we're not getting out of the Garden of Eden. There's a guy on BitChute. I don't know what to make of him either. But he does bring good information to me. What's his name? Bam. He's a black guy. Swears a lot. And he seems to know a lot. Well, today in this video he was talking about the Garden of Eden. And He was right on roll with me, which very few people are. Very few people talk about it. The one that go back and dispute the Garden of Eden and Abraham's freaking fairy tales. Very few people want to go and research that. So they're going to believe what they want to believe because they love sin too much, baby. It was too much fun having a slave for a wife, knowing she was being punished by God. Eating the forbidden fruit. Well, the forbidden fruit is knowledge of your own spirit. And the only way you're going to get that is through your mother's. She is the one that beholds the right brain. She's the one with intuition. She has the maternal instincts to know things are wrong when all evidence points otherwise. Like I knew my son was being molested by my husband. But I couldn't look. No, that one wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to look at that. I'd already been too traumatized and damaged for accusing other people, and the family killed me for that. How dare you accuse? That's who's in trouble here on earth. How dare you make those accusations? He never raped you. You liar. This is hell for many, many people. And the ones that are having a good life and enjoying themselves will find themselves in the reincarnation trap again. But the system isn't getting better. It's getting worse. The imagination is going into some pits that I could never have imagined. In the 1960s, we didn't have legal drugs by doctor. I remember how much they pushed them on me in the 80s and 90s. Really hardcore pushing SSRIs on me. Why? Because they are emotional inhibitors. If a woman's emotions are inhibited, she has no feelings. And she'll go along with any fucking program that may come along or anybody that may come along. And she lives in a fantasy at that point. She is no longer connected to Source. And it's been a vicious cycle like that all along. Generation after generation. But artificial intelligence is designed to replace mother, replace women, create Barbies, Stepford wives. Stepford wives are here. Every woman I know is a Stepford wife. And that doesn't mean she's a slave wife. It means, yeah, it is. She's a slave wife, but she doesn't think so. She's pretty. She's a princess. She's got a nice house. Funny clothes. Fancy clothes. My spirit said funny clothes, but they think they're cool looking like sluts at 13. And younger. And parents think it's cool to create their daughters in this image of Barbie. Oh, look at my daughter. Isn't she so pretty? Never look deeper. What that little girl is capable of knowing. No, we gotta judge her to be a Barbie with nothing inside. Because she can't do left brain stuff. She can't build. She can't lift. She can't do heavy labor. She's weak. So the men have built the prison here for the Godfather. And the Godfather rules the earth. And I believe that on the other side of the Arctic Circle, which is a circle encircling our flat earth, go ahead, hang up on me. Go back to your regular programming. It's true, we live within an Arctic Circle of ice. And you know that they have guards preventing anyone from going anywhere near the Arctic Circle. They have a whole military there to stop you. Why? Why can't we go see? Nobody asks questions, like, okay, well, we're not allowed because Dad said so. We're not allowed, okay. But we're not allowed to do anything anymore. And we've been like frogs in a pot of boiling water for I don't know how long. And people don't know they're in hot water anymore. Well, I think they're right about that. Climate boiling. I think they're absolutely right. The climate boiling is in us. We are boiling spiritually. And we're turning our will, our free will, over to the care of this administration because we're full of fucking fear of what other people think and what other people do. Nobody loved my dad. Nobody. Except his mother and me. Oh, they have no idea what they've done. Because they love sin too much, baby. So they see him sin, drink, and go to prison for writing bum checks. That's a sinner. That's what people say. But that's the judge who doesn't know the story of how he got there and why he didn't care anymore about stealing. The same way Trevor didn't care about stealing. He hated you. He hated me. He was stealing from me. That's a sign of hate. In the ego, remember, the ego is in fantasy, but the spirit wakes up. And immediately comes back. Obviously, I know in my story, I have. I can't do the connection, dot connecting with Jesus and Mary, King James and Mary, those two lives, or the ones in India either. I can't do any DNA figuring out the way I have here with my last incarnation. And it's only remembered by the beings of light and my deceased son who came and told me, but I wouldn't believe it. It took me a lot of years. That happened in 2016. It wasn't until 2020 I was beginning to accept it. And that's when Elvis entered the picture. And that's what, well, I can believe that Elvis was the king. Yes, I can believe Elvis was Jesus. Yes, I can. A lot of people felt that too. And it wasn't just because of ego fantasy. It was, he had a totally different take on rock and roll. He started in the gospel songs from church, right? Then he went to Memphis where the blues were playing all the time. He was a blues singer. And he was very, very good. But that was his story. And his story was to become an idol star, the king, again. And maybe he can influence people that way. And I know in many interviews he influenced me by the things he was saying and the things he was rebuking, like rock and roll going heavy metal. He rebuked that. But he was a CIA asset, like all idol stars are. And the good ones die young. So anyone that's died, you can probably figure out they were a good spirit, couldn't go all the way. Didn't love you too much, baby. We have to rebuke evil to advance our emotional consciousness. If we can't see evil, we are part of evil. Thanks, everybody.